Okay, this video is a continuation of the previous one, and I'm just going to explain a couple of things about using the conditional introduction rule. Okay, so first, when we have a subproof, as I've said, we start that subproof with an assumption. So essentially, we're saying if this assumption is true, then what follows? So we can express what we have here as if not P. If this assumption is made, then what will follow from that? So we work down our subproof, and one thing that we found that follows from making this assumption is that we get R. So we've figured out that if not P, then R. So one way to think about a subproof is that it expresses a conditional. If this assumption is made, then what result can we end up with? And since a subproof expresses a conditional, we can, outside of the subproof, here back against the main line of the proof, put that conditional. The assumption, if the assumption, then whatever follows from it. Okay, then next, let's look at this argument here, and we'll do the proof for it. So we have two premises, not E and Q, if and only if K, and then K is our second premise, and then our conclusion is Q and K. Okay, so do we need to use the conditional introduction rule here? Well, no, we don't need or want to end up with a conditional, so we don't need to use that rule. So what do we want to do? Well, we have K here on line 2, and K is after the double arrow, so we can use the biconditional elimination rule to get what's on the other side of the double arrow, before the double arrow. So that's going to be not E and Q, biconditional elim, lines 1 and 2. Okay, then next, I'm going to put not E, which we're allowed to do using conjunction elim. We don't need to have that not E to get our conclusion, but we're allowed to do it, and so I'm going to put it there just to show you something here in a minute. And then we also, of course, can put Q, same rule, and then our conclusion, Q and K, conjunction intro 2 and 5. All right, now this is a valid argument, and we've just shown that it is valid. That's what the purpose of the proof was. And since it's valid, that means that if these premises are true, we don't know if they are, we don't even know what English sentences they express, but if they're true, then this conclusion has to be true. That's just the definition of valid. Okay, also, it's the case that if these premises are true, then what we have on every line of this proof is also true. So if these premises are true, then what we have here, not E and Q, has to be true. Not E by itself has to be true. Q by itself has to be true. And then, of course, the conclusion has to be true. Okay, so as long as we use the rules correctly, if the premises are true, then what we have on every line of our proof is going to be a true sentence. That's why it's important that we use the rules correctly. Okay, now everything I just said there, if the premises are true, then what we have on every line of the proof has to be true, only applies when those sentences are against the main line of the proof. Okay, so everything I said applies to an argument or to a proof like this one. Up here, however, this argument is valid. We did the proof for it. So if this premise is true, then this conclusion has to be true. Okay, but we can't say for certain whether or not what we have on these lines in the subproof are true if the premise is true. And so that means that once we finish with a subproof, we wouldn't have needed to do it here, but once we finish with a subproof, we can't use any of these lines that are in the subproof. Once the subproof is done, these guys are off limits. And the reason they're off limits is because we can't be certain that they're true. Okay, so that isn't something we were even thinking about for this particular proof, but it is something to keep in mind going forward as you get into more complicated, more difficult proofs. All right.
And I'm whispering, tears dripping, stop the cry, stop the lie, you don't, but you tell me bye, I hope this world changes, some days people are gonna fight for their rights, never gonna stop, gonna keep going.